Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Your organisation runs training courses for your staff and customers. Only problem is it's time-consuming, inconvenient and costly. Take a leaf out of our book. The School of Hard Knock Knocks uses the online training platform by YZ, and our team and customers love it. It's simple to use, supports every media format, audio, video, text, and looks great on desktops, tablets and mobiles. And for a limited time, quote SHKK when you arrange a demo and get 10% off your first year's plan. YZ helps us deliver comedy courses around the world. Imagine what it could do for your organisation. YZ, that's WYZED.com. YZ, online learning made simple.
You're listening to the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast with me, Steve Davis.
Ladies and gentlemen, your next comedian.
Shouldn't drink on an empty head, you know that, don't you?
That is the shittiest heckle I have ever heard in my life.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
What's a bucket list?
You have dangerously underprepared yourself for the shit that is about to get real.
You probably didn't know that Adelaide Comic of the Year, Jason Chong, kickstarted his own stand-up comedy career by attending a stand-up comedy course. That was 20 years ago. Since then, he's become a regular face of Adelaide comedy, on stage, TV and radio. In this School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast episode, host Steve Davis talks to Jason about discipline, getting gigs, the Tarago Test and the black box experiment. Jason also shares a tip from his very first stand-up comedy lesson. Keep asking, but what do you mean? Listen to find out what he means. And talking about stand-up comedy courses, Jason Chong is the School of Hard Knock Knocks guest comedian at the January 19 to 23 stand-up comedy course in Adelaide. This is only days away, so log on to www.schoolofhardknockknocks.com today and book your spot. And now, here is Jason Chong.
Jason, you might have noticed already that I sound very g'day, but I look a little harrow. How's this? Late last year, I totally got engaged to a lady. Like, I'm pretty impressed with that. You guys not so impressed, but I'm pretty. I know her. You don't know her. If you knew her, you'd love it. So I did the right thing, right? Here's what I did. I went and asked the dad if I can marry his daughter, right? Which I think is a nice kind of traditional thing to do. The problem is that he's a farmer just outside of Adelaide, right? So he knows how to use a shotgun and knows where good shallow graves can be made. So. And so he's like a full-on farmer guy, and I'm like, right? So it's always a bit nervous. Like, with this odd relationship where I say, hi, Mr. Griggs, nice to see you again, and he hears, oh, how much for your daughter, right? So it's always... It's nerve-wracking, right? So... The first time, I actually went to ask for his daughter in marriage. I drove out to the farm. I just bought a ring when I was overseas, and I came back and I was talking to him, and finally I said, I bought a ring recently, and I'd like to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage, and he didn't say yes, right? He said, shouldn't be a problem. What the hell does that mean, right? Here's what I think it means. I think one day my fiancée is going to call her dad in tears, and 20 minutes later, now it's a problem, right?
Jason Chong, welcome to the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Now, doing a podcast must be old hat for you, because you pioneered a lot of podcasting for people. Back in 2008, there was a comedy podcast.
Wow, you've done heaps of research.
We've done
I started my first podcast before iPhones. So this is when you had to actually sync your computer with the cable to your iPod and download it manually. And I did a podcast for over 50 episodes that about 14 people listened to in total.
And the name ultimately became called Festival Fishbowl or something of that ilk, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, so the Adelaide Comedy Podcast was just kind of on the Adelaide comedy scene, and I did it with some of the other comics, and we started that. And then I've had other ones throughout my time. So Festival Fishbowl was actually like a video show that we did during the Fringe, interviewing artists live on the internet.
You make a throwaway comment, at 8 people listening. Is this the dilemma when you're at the cutting edge of something and the crowd hasn't caught up yet? Is it lonely out there?
I do feel I'm inquisitive, so I don't think I'm cutting edge. But I feel like I go, oh, that's a thing. Maybe I could pair it with that thing, and then I could make this thing, and that would work great. And then it's very difficult to do, and no one's really ready for it. And then a couple of years later, someone else tries it with an app that's made specifically for that, and it's really easy, and it explodes. And yes, that's my career.
And if I remember correctly, we crossed paths. I was running some workshops on social media years ago, and doing the video part of it, you and a partner really took over that exercise and lifted the video output, and we started sketching out a storyboard for an improvised video shooting down a side street of Adelaide somewhere.
Oh, yeah, we did too. What was around here somewhere?
Yeah, what was that aspect of your life?
Yeah, so about the same year I started stand-up comedy, I went to film school. And so I've kind of been riding those two waves at the same time. So I have a video production company, and I'm still trying to find ways to meld the two together so that I don't have to do either of them properly.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah.
And so you're on this journey now into comedy. You've been on it for a long time. 2001, I believe, you started.
Pushing 20 years.
Can you remember the thing that pushed you in 2001 to take those first steps? Take us through the birth of Jason Chong, comedian.
Yeah, well, I always really loved those Melbourne Comedy Festival showcase things that happen on the TV and that kind of stuff. So I'd always watch them, and my parents would always see when they were coming up and go, oh, like this is coming up, make sure. And, Dad would tape it or whatever. So my parents knew that I kind of liked watching stand-up comedy, and I was always a bit of a smart ass at school. Disruptive, I'm sorry to all my teachers again. And then I went overseas for a year after I finished uni, and my mum would send me clippings from the Advertiser whenever she found something that she thought would interest me. This is before, you could just send a link and stuff. So she just kind of sent me little care packages, and when Sean Wren got traded to Hawthorn, she was furious, so she cut it out and sent it off to me. And one of them was Dave Flanagan's comedy school here in Adelaide. So, I actually kept that piece of this little clipping in my passport and carried it around the world with me. And then when I came back, I gave him a call and did a comedy school.
Wow, what was that like?
It was really good. Yeah, it was. It was like a 10-week course, and in the end, it was similar to Knock Knocks. You do a performance in front of your family and friends, and it's all really fun, and everyone's there to support you. And then after that, I think I asked him for a job. Doing anything, and so I was a drinks waiter and sound guy at Comics for a while, and then I, got my chances on stage, and so it's good.
Do you remember what the most fundamental thing was that you learned from that course? Because you would have been funny already and amusing and entertaining to people. So what was the honing that took place?
Yeah, I remember this great rule or exercise, I'm not sure what it was, that Dave would do where someone would come and present a bit of comedy. It was really overwritten. It was like, oh, me and my colleagues, and, it was a very flowery language. And he'd just sit there and listen to it, and then he'd go, yeah, but what do you mean? And they'd go, oh, and they'd do it again, but, acted a bit better or something. And he'd go, no, what do you mean? What do you mean? And then they'd be like, well, me and my mates went to the pub. Like, aha, that's what you need to say. So it was about that language of what's written and then what's actually said, and how, they're not the same thing. You speak much more relaxed than you write. Yeah.
Did you feel comfortable doing the whole process, or was it facing a fear and pushing through that whole first experience of stand-up?
Yeah, for me, I always loved doing public speaking at school and stuff. All the other kids were like, I don't want to do that. And I'd be like, yeah, I'll do it. And they were always generally funny, and I did well at them and stuff. So I've never been as terrified as other people at public speaking. Yeah. And I always thought I was kind of funny. So, yeah, it was never a big fear. Having said that, even now I still get really nervous.
Right. Really?
Yeah, and a lot of times, young comics will come up and be like, when do you stop getting, really nervous? I'm like, well, if you're doing it right, you should always be challenging yourself, or, take another step in terms of it's a bigger audience, or it's more important, people, or now I'm pitching to a TV network or something. So, yeah, if you're doing it right, you should always be pushing your comfort zone. And if you are sitting there going, oh yeah, I don't care about this, then it's not going to go well, and you're probably not making the best use of your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this is the most difficult thing I've got to say, because Aussie blokes aren't good at this, but...
I love you too.
Thank you. It's in
that it?
It's in that realm.
Oh, good.
When I hear your name, there's a warmth. There's a warm smile inside. There's something about your nature that is it just makes you want to smile. You have this persona, or that's what I've noticed. And so I wanted to ask you, that disposition of being that person that can readily make someone smile, that sort of just a friendly, happy vibe to be around. Do you think, if you're really analytical, that that's helped you along the way, or has it been a hindrance in some way? And how important is that psychological or emotional disposition to someone's career in comedy?
Wow. Okay, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, there is.
Right. I find it really hard to define what my comedy is. So I'm really interested to hear what other people kind of think of me as a comedian or whatever. There used to be a great comic here in Adelaide called Jared Fitch, who was a great impressionist, and he would do impressions of all of us as well. But he could never really. He's like, I don't really know how to do you. So it's always like weird. I'm not really sure kind of what is my thing that people remember of me. So. That I'm warm and happy.
You just got a friendly demeanour about you.
Yeah, right.
That seems to be infectious, at least in my exposure to you. That's what it's been like.
Yeah.
And you've seen lots of comics. Is there a one-to-one relationship between what they're like off stage versus their on-stage success? Or are there some tricks going on, and some people just manifest a totally different self?
Yeah. I mean, certainly, character comics come to mind as people who aren't the same on stage as they are off.
Yeah.
I think generally people tend to be. I mean, I guess ideally they are. Like, ideally they're fun on stage and they're fun off stage. There's a thing called the Tarago Test, where whenever you're thinking of a comic that you'd like to tour with, like, could you spend 48 hours in a Tarago with them without wanting to take them out and run them over? So I don't know. I guess and it's just I'm just having fun a lot.
Yeah,
it's fun. So I like being around these people, like comics and audience members, and yeah, I hope that kind of carries over stage.
And does that still apply at home? I remember you made an off comment once about your partner rolling their eyes, having to put up with some of the things you get up to. What do you like off stage? In your downtime?
I hope so. My wife is funnier than I am. Well, no, as funny. No. If she's not listen to this, she's funnier. Okay. She's very playful as well. So we often, start a pun game, and then it's going on well into the night, and stuff. So yeah, she's great. She is very encouraging, and yeah.
That resonates with me. I like to think that if someone's got the saying that the books you read when you don't have to becomes, it represents who you are. There's something about, if that's just, you do these things because you love them, there's a playfulness that has to seep through when you're applying yourself. So it's actually quite a good resonation to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's...
In 2009, though, you were named Adelaide Comic of the Year.
Ah, yes.
What was that like? That's got to be a thing for your head to deal with.
Yeah, that was nice. That was the first year of the Adelaide Comedy Awards, and I don't know if I kind of rigged it because I told Craig, who was about to, who thought about putting on these awards, that I was leaving for Melbourne, and so I think he was a bit like, oh God, we got to do something. So yeah, and then I don't think I left for like another year maybe. But that was really nice. I used to also organise like a comedy camp. So we'd all go to a place in Wollonga with dorms and hang out, and I'd ask other comics who were had specialities, whether it be music or characters or putting on a show, how to take a session. And so we'd all sit in a circle, and someone would kind of give all their knowledge to everyone else, and we'd all get together and record some podcasts and stuff. It was great. What
was the outcome of that individually? Did everyone come away more sharper, more honed?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Everyone really enjoyed them, and we did it twice, and then I think I went to Melbourne, so we couldn't do it again. So it was great for me too, because I think I'd just come off a tour, and just being out of the scene for a year, there was all these comics that I didn't really know, or and so kind of us all heading away for a weekend, and it's very important that we all got drunk together as well.
Yeah.
It was really great just to kind of like get the scene and fuse it together a bit more.
What's the challenge like? Because when you grow up, you're in and around Adelaide, you've got networks you can lean upon. You've gone across to Melbourne.
Yeah.
It's sort of ground zero. You've got to start again.
Yeah.
What did you learn? What are some things, if there are comics listening who are about to shift city,
Yeah.
what would you do now if you were moving city again?
Oh, I wouldn't. I couldn't be bothered. No, it was great. I love Melbourne. What I did is I'd gone there a lot, just from Adelaide, just to over for a week or two. Did Melbourne comedy festivals and stuff, and gradually got to meet the comics and kind of who found some peers and stuff over there.
Yep.
But it was good because I kind of went over and I wasn't a threat to anyone because I was just, this guy's just here from Adelaide. So I was very kind of just relaxed. And then when I did move over, I think I kind of knew people well enough to be able to go, I'm here now, can I have gigs regularly? So that was, I think that went well. And also give it time. So I only went over for a year and then I got married. So my wife and I kind of lived apart for a year. And then we figured out whoever had the best job at the end, we'd moved to their city, and she did. Also, my dad got really sick, so I came back to look after him. That was the main thing, actually. Yeah. So I only gave it a year, and I was wondering in that time where those kind of extra little gigs come from, we're doing a fundraiser for this, or could you host a quiz night, and those kind of things that really help support you as a comic. And I just kind of wasn't getting those gigs, and I felt a bit dejected about that. But it wasn't until I got back the next year, all those things started coming in because, they've had their fundraiser for the year and they've got to wait for it to come again. So I said no to a lot of Melbourne gigs the year after I came back and was kind of kicking myself that I didn't give it longer. But yeah.
Anyway, so what I take from that is Trojan horse yourself for the first year so no one's challenged or fearful.
Yeah, and do it for a couple of years.
Say, look, I'm just visiting, have them lower their guard and then get in there and take all their work from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really take it out of their butt. I don't know what that means.
No, exactly. Now, you were a radio host too. You've done lots of bits on The Footy Show. The Project is in your mix. Mm-hmm. If there's budding comedians listening who want those big breaks, is there a secret to that?
It was just kind of right place, right time a lot of the time. So my radio, I started doing student radio when I was at uni, and then all of a sudden, one of the biggest networks in Australia opened up an Adelaide shop. So Nova started, and I was 3 or 4 years into comedy, and I don't know, maybe only 2 or 3. But I sent him an email or applied for a job and got a job on the streets and worked my way up there, and I was on air within a couple of months. So it's kind of right place, right time. From there, I guess and doing some stuff in Melbourne, I got a spot doing the project thing, and then from there, someone from SAFM saw that and was like, "Can you do that for a breakfast show?" So it all kind of you can kind of draw a line from that to that to that to that. But you can't ever look ahead and go, "Oh well, from that I'll get that," because. Right. Yeah, they don't often, one thing doesn't necessarily lead to what you think it's going to lead to.
So how much responsibility do you have in asking that question to make those opportunities happen versus other people tapping you on the shoulder?
Yeah, it's a combination. Certainly I've asked, probably not as much as I should have. Right. I think part of that being the kind of nice, friendly, laid-back kind of person. So often I feel like I wait too much but I'm luckily got some taps on the shoulder, but if I was smarter about it, I probably would have pushed things a bit harder.
Yeah. And does telly challenge your shaping of your content? On Project, are you just under absolute fierce time pressure to be sharp and fast with that radio probably has too, but not quite to the same extent?
Yeah, absolutely. I like those. So I used to do some of those Metro whips, I think they're called. I don't know didn't know if they still do them. So they're 30 seconds. They go all around the country. And they give you a topic in the afternoon, sometimes a couple of days ahead, but sometimes not. But you have 30 seconds, but often they'll get to you and the person before you will be talking and you'll get a voice in your ear going, "Hey, we're running out of time. That needs to be 18 seconds. And you've got to I've got a really short story and now I've just got to rip it apart or say it faster Yeah, and so you definitely have to kind of play within their rules. And also, you've got to get scripts approved and all that kind of stuff. And oftentimes, my cheekiness meant that I had to rewrite scripts.
Okay. There's a part of me, the noble part, that would feel like, I'm having to slice my values to get there. Whereas the other part of me said, hang on, you're on national television. Just suck it up, buddy.
Yeah, and you get $300 for 30 seconds work.
So, hey.
And also, they used to put up your Twitter handle underneath you. And I could actually see the project being broadcast around the country because I just get this influx of Twitter followers like every half an hour from different parts of Australia. It was really cool. So, there are definitely... yeah.
Did you get trolled? Nah. No?
Nah.
Stalked?
I hope so.
Yeah. Be kind of nice. That's what you're in it for, isn't it? Now, the filmmaker side of you, haven't really touched filmmaking.
Yes.
What sort of things have you got up to with your filmmaking, and how have they had much influence on the comedy side of you?
Yeah, I'd love to make them the same thing more, but so I just started film school in 2002. So I think that was the same year I started comedy. Was it?
No, 2001 you started comedy. Just correcting your record for me.
Yeah. So they've just kind of gone hand in hand. I've done stuff at TV and stuff, but generally other people's productions.
Yep.
And then done some DVDs for other comics and stuff back when DVDs were a thing. Do you remember them?
Oh, yes.
Standard definition bullshit.
Yes, I've got two little girls, 9 and 11, and they asked me. They found a stack of these. I said, "What are these?"
Oh, right.
I said, "Yeah, you put them in a machine, and film comes from." Nice. It was quite novel.
Yeah, so we've done a whole bunch of like live comedy show things, which when I kind of look back, they're really fun. Like they're really nice locations, and we did one for Mickey D in the Round, and so they've been really fun to do. One for Michael Bowley in the Capri Theatre, which was beautiful. We kind of packed that out, and so that's been really fun. And now I'm trying to kind of make TV shows in Adelaide, so kind of taking that next step. Again, being very nervous when talking to people.
Yes, because this particular year, 2019, where we're recording this interview, you cut the umbilical cord between full-time reliable work to go out. And what tell us, give us the top-line version of what you've been doing, because it's again, trying something new and pushing out there on the edge.
Yeah, so this year I ran a show called The Black Box Experiment, which was, I think, May to November. And each month I'd work with someone who had an idea for a TV show, and we'd spend a month worth of live shows in front of people, trying the show out, trying to break it, trying to see what works, see what doesn't. And then the last show of every month we would film with a whole bunch of cameras for Channel 44 with their help. And they would have a pilot at the end of it. So it was like super cheap, really nasty stuff, but the stuff kind of came out really nice. So we made 6 different pilots in that time, and now we edit them and polish them and pitch them.
And you're in the process of doing that at the moment?
Yes, I'm expecting hopefully a phone call now with some good news.
Okay.
Not for TV, but for like some money for a pilot to redo it, yeah.
And just tell me, I don't know how to ask this again and not be indelicate, but with something like either community radio or Channel 44, we're not talking about audiences with lots of zeros on the end. We're talking about smaller audiences. What's the importance of it, of having that discipline of exposure to an audience? Is there learning that form and structure to set you up for when there are bigger audiences, or is there that aspect of finding that crowd, that small crowd that can then talk and take you further?
I don't know if it's... I think discipline was a good word to talk about, because it's about showing up every week and not going, oh, I'm sick or I'm hungover or whatever. Same like comedy. Like, I remember getting some feedback, early on in my comedy career. Someone was just like, it's great that you always show up to gigs. And I couldn't believe that people just don't. But...
so it's not just tradies; it's also comics.
Yeah, sometimes comics just don't show up, and so having that discipline to be reliable, and it's not as much for the audience as it's for your own development. Like if you get a radio or TV exposure and you don't have the skills behind you, then you won't do a great job, and that'll be it. But if you have worked on those skills elsewhere where no one has seen it and you've made mistakes and been allowed to make mistakes, then when the opportunities present, you've actually got more chance of sticking out. Yeah.
So if there are doors opening for people to do that, you'd say, go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah. You've got to take opportunities. And, even if you want to get into radio and you don't know how and no one's knocking on your door and you can't get into Fresh or Radio Adelaide, then start a podcast. Like nowadays, the technology is not the barrier. It's your discipline that's the barrier.
Yeah. All right. Now, you're our guest comedian for the Adelaide School of Hard Knock Knocks in January, 19 to 23, with Glyn Nicholas, amazing man. What advice would you be giving to any newbies in comedy who are about to dip their toes in the pond with you, Jason?
Don't take all my gigs. You should probably quit and, just come see my Fringe show. No, I don't know. These stand-up comedy, you did this one, didn't you?
Yes.
So not everyone wants to be a stand-up, do they?
That's correct.
Some people they want to have, it's a bucket list thing, or they're a real estate agent that wants to have a bit more confidence and stuff. So I guess, and you don't even have to know exactly why you're there, but if you know why you're there, that's a plus. And make sure that I would say, have a goal that you want after the course. So if that is, I want to do raw comedy, or I want to, get into the semi-finals of raw comedy, or that might not be it at all. It might be I want to make someone laugh at my next job interview or something. No, just write a little goal down for yourself, and and keep that in the back of your head. I think it's good to kind of not just kind of live right in the moment, but also a little bit ahead. Then you might accidentally make that goal and be like, oh, that was cool.
And I hear this story. A lot of people have that last minute, the day before, that voice saying, oh, this is stupid, I shouldn't be doing this, I'm going to fail. Do you have any world-weary advice for that voice?
Yes. That's the only voice that thinks you'll fail. Everyone else wants you to be good. The audience wants you to be good. Your other performers want you to be good because no one wants to see a bad stand-up comedian. So they're hoping you're good, and they're putting out positive energy. So you need to, I think acknowledge that voice is the only dickhead in the room that's heckling you at this point in time.
Okay. Now, if someone wants a dose of Chong, where can we get that from?
Sounds nasty.
That does,
Steve.
doesn't it? Let me rephrase that. Where can we see Jason Chong perform? It doesn't sound good either. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you want me to assault you in some way, either auditorily or otherwise, your choice. Oh, that sounds... Now I've caught your disease. I'm doing a Fringe show this coming Fringe called Read the Room, which was one of the Black Box Experiment shows.
Oh, okay.
It was my one. Therefore, it's my favourite. And so I'm doing that for...
And that's the one you're pitching?
Yes, that's what I'm pitching because I have an ego, I guess. Yeah. I just want to start off with that one and then we'll pitch the others. So that's at Gluttony, the first 2 weeks of Fringe at 9:30.
What's the gist of it?
So it's a really fun game. You would love this.
Yeah.
It is it's a panel show where the audience answer questions live on their phone. Mm-hmm. So I ask a question like, which pant leg do you put your foot in first? Yeah. All the audience kind of ask that question. It goes into a website.
They use their phones, do they?
Yeah, they use their phones in the audience, which is generally a bad thing in a comedy show, but a good thing in this case. And then contestants on stage have to kind of read the room. They have to say, if they think that this crowd is a more of a left foot or a right foot kind of person.
Okay.
So it's really fun. Yeah, we've done it a bit through the Black Box and we've done pilots and pitching it. And so, I'm going to bring it to the Fringe.
It's like a fresh version of Family Feud.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And... there's another,
but funny.
8 out of 10 cats, and it's a bit, but it's bringing that technological edge, which is that thing that I get excited about before it's popular.
Yes, exactly. So the rest of us listening, give it 4 years, and then we'll do a very similar show with an app that's been made for it, and we'll be fine.
Hosted by Grant Denyer, everyone will win.
And look, finally, if someone wants to book you to do comedy,
yes.
What's the best?
Anything.
Would you? Okay. What's the best way to go about it?
Probably jasonchong.com.au is my website. Social medias are all different because I jumped on them early, and before they all had they locked the conventions. You couldn't. Anyway, Jason Chong Comic, Jason Chong Comedy, and Jason Chong Comedian. But I don't know which ones for Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. So you'll have to figure that out. Yeah. I also have a podcast called Retro Ordinaire, where me and fellow comedian Scott John talk about ancient 80s things and go in deep dives of how Chuck Norris animated series get made and all that kind of stuff. And I have a weekly spot on the ABC Thursday nights with Jules doing a thing called Pandemonium, which, again, I think you would love.
Yes, yes, I must make that. Does that get podcasted, that segment?
Sometimes. I'm not really sure. I think that the whole show is available online.
Yeah, but I mean the best bit.
Just the best, yeah.
When you do the Pandemonium.
I'll get them to put a little chapter marker in it so people can skip past all the rest of the show.
Yeah, forget Jules.
Yeah.
We want the jewel. Jason Chong, thanks for being on the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast.
No worries. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone in January.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.